Every farmhouse has all kinds of dreams. Whenever they first built that house back in the 1800s, you just imagine a husband and a wife moving in for the first time, newlyweds, and they have all these dreams. And then as they get older and pass the farm on to the next generation, then the next generation comes and they have different dreams. So you've got like 5 or 6 generations or more of dreams. And then finally they sell out to a big farmer who doesn't even want the house anymore or the barn, because they buy the 100 acres, they want the land. So they get a bulldozer in and they bulldoze most of the house and the barn down. And they cultivate over top of where the barn and the house was, and nobody even knows their house or barn anymore. It's all gone forever. All those dreams of the last 5 or 6 generations are all gone.
Well, there's Dad with all his grandchildren, but none of the grandchildren are farming. That's why it's so special whenever John can take over. It's always easy to make coffee for John and remember which cup is his, because I have him on the right. He's always right. That's always I can remember, okay?
I'm always right.
Yeah, that's right. Before John came, I was here for a few years by myself and on the farm. And it got pretty lonely out here because you're on a dead end road. There's no traffic pretty much at all. And so you had nobody to talk to, so you listen to the radio and stuff and everything. But boy, whenever John started to do the chores tonight especially, and he worked on the weekends, and it's so nice to have somebody to talk to. So now he comes every night pretty much. Sometimes I can hardly wait to John to come at night. I can hardly wait because I got a whole bunch of stuff to tell him.
I guess in my mind, yes, I am a farmer, but I don't know. I haven't really considered myself or told people that I am a farmer.
So when John came first, he was pretty naive. He was only like 13. His sisters were here before that. And they were working on the garden all summer. And then whenever one of them was sick or couldn't make it, then we'd get their younger brother, Jonathan. He's only 14, a tall, gangly, skinny kid, He didn't really know one vegetable from the next, and we just told him to pick it. And that's how it all started.
Once I started on the farm, I wanted to farm. I took off pretty quick, but I kind of knew that I can't just buy a farm. But once Jim talked to me, like, I want you to take over the farm and work into it, I was really excited. Jim is giving up a lot. He could easily just sell the farm for $2 million, and I would never, ever be able to get a loan for $2 million or even to pay off the interest on that loan. For someone to give me that break, I probably would never, ever find that anywhere else, to be honest. I think taking over a farm is not just like I'll get the money and I'll pay you and here I own the farm now. It's going to be a long process. If Jim was to sell me the farm, he would have to pay around $450,000 of taxes to the government because it's changing names from his last name to my last name. And he can't come up with that money, I can't come up with that money, plus pay him, So Right now, what we're doing is a lease, so I am hoping to get a loan with the FCC, which is the farm credit, to buy the cattle and the equipment. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes you're like, oh, will this ever work out? So it's exciting, but it's kind of nerve-wracking, I guess.
This is the year for peppers. Tons of peppers. And eggplant. Got enough eggplant we could feed an army here. I think every father, he's not my son, but every father goes through where anybody's taking over, you kind of have to look the other way and just let them, because just because they're doing it different doesn't mean it's wrong. Because you get set in your ways, you get older, you know. Whenever somebody else comes along, if they're doing it differently, it's pretty easy to find fault. So you gotta use their imagination, their youth, to just walk away. Okay, we'll try it, see how it goes, you know. And quite often it does work well. Just because I've done it the same way all the time doesn't mean that's the only way. My dad and I were really close friends, but sometimes you could tell he wasn't that pleased with something I'd try. He'd say, well, you could do it that way, you know? But he's got some good ideas, and you just gotta let him try them, you know? Yeah, the calf is a lot better. He's looking for more there this morning. He looks so much brighter. We should take a temperature to see what he is.
Jim's probably more talkative than me. I'm pretty quiet. I just like to work.
Think we have half yet? Lucy's having the time of her life there.
He always wants me to learn and wants to show me new things. He always has a positive attitude, you know, if something breaks, and he's always like, well, it could always be worse, and you know, so he's really just kind of taking me under his wing, just teaching me everything, just the little tricks or things that him and his dad used to do, and he's really helped me just to understand the hard work and understand what farming is really about. You know, there's a lot more to it than just driving a tractor.
So I was telling him that it's really important to keep the doors shut in the barn, because you leave the door open, I'll shut it next time. If somebody gets talking to you, you forget to go back to shut the gate. And then all of a sudden, the neighbors will call and said, there's 2 calves running around here. Yeah. So you have to outsmart them, because you can't outrace them. Right, John? So I talked to Ron last night, Ron Giffen.
Yeah.
Told him we'll need the baler hopefully by Thursday if it doesn't rain.
Okay.
But later on in the day though, because I'm doing the vegetables, right?
Yeah.
I won't be back till about 5:30, and that's by the time you're done work, right?
Yeah. We're also calling for rain though on tomorrow.
Yeah.
Now, if it does rain, it probably won't be bailing.
No, well, that's right. So even if we can't bail Thursday, maybe Friday. You're off Friday, right? You're
Yeah,
here,
I'm
here
off
Friday?
Friday, yeah.
Once one of us is trained,
Yeah,
I'd rather him work on you, because
Yeah.
you're going to be doing it.
Yeah.
Then you can teach me. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good. All right.
So, okay. This baler's the first piece of machinery that he's ever bought. We bought it from a neighbor. He is so excited. But it's funny how it's changed his perspective already, because he never really was that interested in what things cost. But now every time we break something, we have to fix it. First thing he says, how much will that cost? How much does that cost? So, you know, he's much more, when it's his own money, it makes a difference.
Food. No.
Well, when we started dating, John was still in school, so he had like a lot more time. The next summer, it was his first year ever working like a full-time job, as well as trying to do like full-time work here on the farm. It was hard just trying to understand, like, the farm will always come first, I guess.
Most farmers are in debt. It's that simple, I guess. I work Monday to Thursday as an electrician, and then I come here every day after work, and I'm here on weekends and Fridays. There's really not a lot of money to be made, or so lots of guys have to work off the farm just to be able to farm. So a lot of guys don't want to work 2 jobs and be tied down all the time.
People always have a dream. Oh, I love your farm. Oh, I just love to have a farm. It looks so peaceful. It is peaceful, but you have to make a living. Unless you inherit it, or win the lottery, you have to work, right, to pay for it. It's been 45 years since I graduated university, and most of those 45 years, very seldom, maybe you can count maybe in both hands, maybe the number of times I have slept in, because I'm always doing chores,
It's tough when you don't really have a lot of money, and then you have to live off that money too, I'm only 23, and I'm getting a loan, and I'm kind of worried, and we've had meetings with the FCC, so they're just kind of in the process of figuring out how I can pay it off and stuff. But it would just suck if I can't pay it off and I have to sell everything.
When we first talked about leasing, this is quite a while. This has been talking about it for the last couple of years probably. But the idea was the long-range plan was that you'd be to move into the house when you get married. Yeah. At that time, you just started going with Megan, so Dear knows who you'd be marrying at that time. But I already had my mind made up that you'd be living here. Oh, yeah. Well, I don't need a big place like this. I'm all by myself, It's two bathrooms and 3 bedrooms, and I don't need all this room, and just myself. And you're young, so so I think probably as any other family, when you start up, you just kind of, the house is yours to fix up. It would look really nice with a veranda on here. Yeah. Really nice. And then you can sit out there with a cup of tea or coffee and make in there and just watch the traffic go by. Yeah. It's kind of nice. And yeah. So you guys got the whole future ahead of you to do that, eh? Mm-hmm. I think there's 2 or 3 things maybe that come to mind, maybe that all farmers told their sons. And one of them was always pay your debts and always be good to your neighbors, because sooner or later you'll need them, just like they'll need you. Yeah. That's the advice I would have. Yeah. And no matter how busy you are on the farm or wherever you are, always go out on a date once a week, because you get so wrapped up in stuff, eh? You're doing one thing and she's doing another thing, and pretty soon you kind of forget what the other's doing, and you kind of get distance between, Just once a week. It doesn't have to be a long date, doesn't have to be an expensive date, just half an hour, whatever, and just talk. We kind of decided though Lucy goes with the farm. Whoever has the farm, Lucy gets, because she's not a house dog, huh?
You're staying here, don't worry.
It's really nice to know, climbing into bed at night, you know that somebody's going to look after the farm and try to take care of it. You work so hard all your life. To think of the number of times you worked after supper, worked to midnight sometimes trying to get the crop in, and you try to take care of the land and the cattle for so long. And it's worthwhile then whenever somebody else is taking over.
I definitely want to remember the history here. And years later, I want to be able to tell my kids about what Jim has given me and the stories that we share. I want to keep the memories too.